Readings of Almighty God's words on the pursuit of the truth. How to pursue the truth. 24. Not only does God incarnate strictly abide by the credos and principles of conducting himself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully in his human life, but he also strictly abides by these credos and principles in the ministry he performs. I have worked and preached for many years, and you have always been reading the words I fellowship. Through various topics, you should have been able to understand my viewpoints, stances, and attitudes regarding various issues. You know this in theory. But do you know how I conduct myself and do things in the ministry I perform? Perhaps some of you only know that I have done things and know what manifestations I've exhibited. But when it comes to specific matters, you might not yet know what I think in my heart or what my plans and designs are. So I will give a brief introduction. When it comes to the matter of performing my ministry, basically, with the work that I can and ought to do, and which involves my ministry, I spare no effort and am not subject to any constraints. I do not demand anything from you, nor do I claim credit. I just try by all means possible to clearly explain what I can do, what I understand, and what I know. To explain things clearly, even if it's long-winded or troublesome, I try my best to make things clear. I strive to reach a point where I feel in my heart that you have understood and that I have explained things clearly, at which time I stop speaking and the topic ends there. If I feel that I have said too little and you might not have understood, then I will go into detail, speak more, and even say it over and over again, trying every possible way to explain the topic clearly. I am not afraid of you laughing at me. I am not afraid of some intellectuals laughing and saying, "You are really long-winded when you speak." I just fulfill my responsibility based on the principles of conducting myself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully, explaining clearly and plainly the words I intend to say. If people cannot grasp some of the words I fellowship on the truth and still feel unclear after hearing them, then I will give an example and speak more specifically. Although I have to say a lot of words this way, feeling drained, mentally exhausted, and with my mouth parched, I still have to try every possible way to explain things clearly. If you don't understand after I finish speaking that time, I will hold another gathering. And what does that entail? Holding another gathering and speaking until my mouth is parched entails me being very exhausted. It entails suffering exhaustion once again. But I cannot slack off. I cannot refrain from talking about this topic without regard for whether you have understood it, just because I talked about it last time and fear getting tired. I must try every possible way to explain this topic clearly. As for whether you can understand, accept, and practice the truth after hearing these words, that depends on your personal pursuit. I do not concern myself with that. However, as for the topics I want to speak about and have not yet spoken about, and the responsibilities I have not yet fulfilled or the burdens I have not yet discharged, I must definitely see them through and handle them well, all the way until I feel inside. It's been explained clearly now. I've covered everything included in this topic. At the very least, you know about it and understand it. Then I feel at ease inside. It may be that holding a couple extra gatherings for you will make me so exhausted that I won't be able to sleep for several days. But the next time this happens, I'll still take this approach. I won't slack off saying, to avoid being exhausted, I won't say as much, and I'll hold one less gathering. Let's end this topic here. Most people don't pursue the truth anyway. I will not be perfunctory toward you, nor will I be perfunctory toward the ministry I perform. When I do this, I never say that I must do right by my conscience, or do right by the brothers and sisters who have sat here listening to my sermon for several hours. Rather, I naturally and to the best of my ability pour out to you everything I ought to do, and want to say, letting you hear it and gain it. I do not slack off, and I do not act perfunctorily. If I don't explain something clearly the first time, I will repeat it 2 or 3 times in different ways. Even if you have certain opinions about me in your hearts, or say that I'm long-winded, I do not care. As long as I can explain things clearly and achieve the result, that is enough. When I speak, I act based on the principle of doing things well and thoroughly, fulfilling my responsibility, and pouring out everything inside me to you. I don't slack off or act perfunctorily. This is the attitude of God incarnate in performing His ministry. As for things that do not involve my ministry, such as sometimes guiding you in matters within the scope of your duties, this lies outside of my ministry. You might not be aware of this. Actually, apart from fellowshipping the truth and guiding you to understand the truth principles and enter into the truth reality, nothing else has anything to do with me. It's not what falls to me. Let me make this clear to you. Guiding your work is not within the scope of my ministry and has nothing to do with me. It is fine whether I do this work or not. That is the business of you humans. This is the first time I have mentioned this. The business of you humans. That is, your business, the business of humans, has nothing to do with me. Why do I say this? What you perform is your duty, and what I perform is my ministry. I do work, while you perform duty. There is a difference. Regarding guiding you in matters within the scope of your duties, apart from fellowshipping the truth principles, if you ask me about professional skills or miscellaneous tasks, I will try my best to clearly express what I understand, what I have insight into, and the principles I have grasped, so that you know and understand them. I will do my utmost to teach you and help you learn. For what I do not know, I will have you look up resources, or if there is someone among you who knows about it, I will consult them. You have studied this profession, so what do the educational materials in the industry say about this matter? What are the rules in this domain of knowledge? Let's find the principles here, so that our work can be better suited to the tastes and discerning eye of professionals, so we don't get ridiculed or become a laughing stock, so we don't make fools of ourselves, and so we don't make God's house look bad. You see, the choral hymns, musicals, film production, script writing, art, as well as dancing, costumes, and so on that I guide. No matter what aspect of professional or non-professional work it is not work that is within the scope of the ministry I perform. It is your duty. Calling it your duty means it is your business, and that you should handle it yourselves, because these matters involve certain domains of knowledge and technical and professional issues of certain industries, and these are things you have to learn about. What you ought to study is yours to study. What you ought to inquire about is yours to inquire about. And what you ought to practice is yours to practice. This, in fact, has nothing to do with me. The work I do is to represent God's incarnate flesh in expressing words, and to represent God in speaking to you and working upon you. As for work that has nothing to do with my ministry, that is the business of you humans. For this work, God has arranged for a leader and shepherd to lead you, and He has also established various work arrangements and various administrative decrees and regulations. You should strictly abide by the arrangements of the leader God has established for you, the man used by the Holy Spirit, and submit to His leadership. And as for any of the work I do outside of my ministry, what does that count as? This all counts as extra work. I do not need to perform duty. I do work and perform my ministry, and you perform your duty. Therefore, I can guide your work, but this is not something that falls to me. If you think, you must do this work, this is your work, how could it be okay for you not to do it? If you don't do it, I'll pin the responsibility on you and refuse to let you off the hook. Then I say you are wrong. You cannot pin this on me. That is the duty of you humans. When you don't understand something concerning your duty, you should fellowship, discuss, and seek among yourselves. If you ask me, and my conditions at that time permit, I can help you. If I don't have the time and cannot help you, that's not on me. If some of you use twisted reasoning, saying that this is what I ought to do, then you are wrong. This is the duty you ought to do, and it has nothing to do with me. If you do not do your duty well, that's you being irresponsible and disloyal. If you do not fulfill your duty and try to push the responsibility onto me, this is a manifestation of not having reason, and God finds this to be incredibly detestable. However, if I see that you really cannot do something, that it is beyond your reach, and that you do not know the principles for doing this work, then I have to lend a hand, provide you with 1 or 2 examples, and get you onto the right track. If you're still unable to do it, and my conditions do not permit me to do it, or I too am unable to do it, then all we can do is bring this item of work to a stop. That's all we can do. Who's to blame for your abilities being so limited and your caliber being so poor? But if I do perform some item of work, I perform it as best I can. If I know how to do something, I'll tell you as much, and I'll also let you know what I don't know how to do. For the parts I don't know, I will consult you. If you also don't know, I will ponder, think, and seek on my own. Once I come up with a path, some ideas, and some threads to follow, I will fellowship with you, striving to do my utmost to do this work well and thoroughly. For one thing, this is being accountable for the work. For another, this lets you learn something in the course of my guiding you. You get to learn the principles that need to be grasped and the truths that need to be understood for this aspect of professional work. There are some people who, despite understanding a bit of professional knowledge, cannot produce a finished product, and so I guide them. After it's done, I still feel uncertain about it, so I have them consult an industry expert and get the expert to check it. If the expert says that doing it this way conforms to the norms of the industry and doesn't make us a laughingstock, then we will stick to this course of action. If the expert says it looks like it was done by an amateur, that it looks embarrassing, is not right, and does not conform to standards, then we will have the expert make some changes to it immediately. We cannot be self-righteous. We cannot pretend to understand something when we don't, and we must have self-awareness. We shouldn't delude ourselves. We must take things seriously, striving to gain something in terms of professional skills after finishing a piece of work. Therefore, when doing this kind of thing, even if I'm an amateur in terms of professional skills and don't understand much, I will still do my utmost. Some people say, "Why do you still guide them even when you don't understand?" It's because these people have limited professional skills. They really have no creativity or good ideas when it comes to artistic productions involving professional skills. I have a bit of a strength in this area and have some ideas, so I provide them to these people who have somewhat of a foundation or some common sense in a certain profession, and these people all think these ideas of mine are quite good. Seeing that they think my ideas are quite good, I go ahead and impudently guide them, and some of the works I guide in this way are passable. I'm not being shameless in saying that. This passable has a basis. I only say this because industry experts have seen them and said they are passable. This passable does not mean they are very good or have reached a professional standard, just that at the very least, the experts have verified that they hold up, and so I feel at ease. So far, most people think that the few works I have guided are passable, and apparently some of them have even won awards in certain competitions, right? No matter what aspect of work or what kind of thing I am doing, as long as I have some thoughts and ideas, or I feel I have a good creative concept, I will absolutely speak up. I will try every which way to have brothers and sisters help apply these ideas to the production, so that more people will be willing to look at it. The result is that God's work and God's words are propagated more, better, and more widely. Our goal is thus achieved. As for the ways and methods with which I do things, they are still based on the principles of conducting myself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully. When I am doing things, I act quietly and make every effort to finish the task and do it well. Once the work is completed and uploaded, that phase is over. The things God incarnate does within the scope of the ministry He performs are based on His principles of conducting Himself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully. When doing things outside this scope, He likewise does not depart from these principles. He also conducts Himself in a rule-abiding manner and does things dutifully. For the problems I can see and discover, I either have someone convey them, or I personally get involved to provide guidance and correction, and to help resolve them. In short, in terms of the things you can come into contact with or have heard about in your real lives, I basically handle everything, regardless of what it is, based on such a principle. Moreover, I do not distinguish between big and small matters. Whether it's raising cats, raising dogs, building pig pens, building sheepfolds, or cooking, making clothes, or even cleaning, I get involved in whatever I see. When I see you doing things wrong, I direct and correct you. Those who have a heart will listen and take it in, while those who don't will not. Afterward, I see who listens and can follow my instructions, and I use them. Over the years of interacting with you, this is how I have done things. After telling you what to do, I keep following up until the matter is finished and done well. Although there are many things that I don't do with my own hands, my heart is always focused on whatever I'm following up on. My heart never leaves these things. If something needs to be handled urgently and quickly, I work from dawn to dusk and late into the night to get it done, constantly following up, supervising, and directing. But given my physical condition, as you can imagine, doing this work is quite tiring. Once it's finally done, I stop going there. Eventually, someone notices and says, "God has organized things so well for us here, but He doesn't get to enjoy it. We're the ones who get to enjoy it all." I say that as long as you get to enjoy it, that is enough. Once things are settled for you, and everything is suitable for you in terms of your life and doing your duties, I no longer need to busy myself with these things. Actually, the job of God incarnate is to fellowship the truth and provide the truth. Other work has nothing to do with me. But over these years, besides doing my job, I have also been busy helping you resolve problems you have in doing your duties, which has also led me to take considerable pains. Although a lot of work is not what falls to me, and there are many things I've never even done before, having never systematically learned certain kinds of knowledge or skills, or handle these things in life, I have not stood idly by as the church and God's house have encountered various things. Instead, I do my utmost to guide and help you all, and when it comes to matters of day-to-day life, I also do all that I can to get things squared away for you. Acting from the perspective of humanity, I do what I can. If I see something that needs doing and do not do it, I'll feel uneasy inside. If I discover a problem and do not correct it, I'll feel uneasy inside. If there's work no one knows how to do, and I have ideas and can do it, but I don't do it, I'll feel uneasy inside. So I just have to take action. Therefore, outwardly, it seems that apart from speaking and giving sermons, I have not done anything else. But I have taken plenty of pains for the sake of your daily lives and the basic necessities you need to do your duties. Most people's caliber is so poor that they cannot even do these things well. So I have to put thought into guiding you. Although I look unremarkable and am not some important figure, and have not received any sort of training in society, when it comes to the basic necessities of the personnel doing their duties in God's house, since I first came into contact with you up to now, there has not been a single aspect of your basic living environment, living conditions, and daily needs that I haven't taken pains with. Take planting vegetables on the farm, for example. At first, seeing that most of the people on the farm had lived in the countryside and had done planting work for a few years, I selected some people who knew how to plant to take on this work. I told them what vegetables to plant in which season and how to plant them, thinking I wouldn't need to worry about it after that. But after a while, I went to the farm and saw that everything was a complete mess. The supervisor could not handle the responsibility, and the workers could not do a good job either. In the end, there was nothing I could do but get involved, follow up, and direct them bit by bit. From selecting and buying seeds to figuring out how much to plant and how to choose the land, as well as what to plant each season, how much to plant, how to plant it, who should be responsible for planting, how to apply fertilizer, and what things to look out for. I explained everything clearly to them. I personally directed them like this. Short of cooking for them and feeding them, I did everything. Some people say, "Weren't you treating them like 3-year-old children?" In fact, it really was like that. These people were all ostensibly adults, but they really could not shoulder these responsibilities. I just had to take them by the hand and personally direct and teach them in this way before things finally started to come together. Later, the people doing their duties were all able to eat the grain and vegetables they grew themselves. In the summer, they could also eat some fruit, and in the winter, they could eat vegetables they'd stored away. If the above hadn't intervened and looked into this work, and just let the people below do it, it would have all gotten messed up. In any case, what is the fact that I'm telling you? I have done many things without speaking of them, but the things I do speak of are strictly what I have done. I fellowship on these things not to tell you how many things I have done, how much exhaustion I have suffered, or the amount of pains I've taken for your sake. There's no need to talk about these things. So what am I telling you? God incarnate comes to this human world to represent God in doing work. His job is the ministry he performs. In this stage of the last days, his job is to provide people with all the truths they need to attain salvation. In the ministry he performs, he strictly abides by the credos and principles of conducting himself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully. Outside of this, in his human life and as concerns his manifestations of humanity, he likewise has not overstepped these principles and credos. Whether it is guiding you in doing your duties or helping you handle various matters regarding basic necessities in life, I act on the principles of conducting myself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully. I never shout slogans or speak grandiosely, and I never give orders blindly. I just do things practically. To what extent do I do this? For example, when directing the planting on the farm, I had them list all the vegetable varieties they knew of, what the names of those vegetables were, what they looked like, how long their growing period was, and which variety was the best and most suitable for local planting. Based on what I knew, I selected 1 or 2 varieties of each vegetable, decided who would be responsible for planting them, and ultimately made it so everyone was able to eat fresh vegetables each season. I never shout slogans saying, "This vegetable is so nutritious. People benefit from eating it so much. Such and such is a scientific way of planting it." I have never studied nutrition, nor do I understand farming. What do I know? I know how to select the variety of vegetable that's suitable for planting at a certain location, so that after it grows, it tastes good. Everyone is willing to eat it, and it wasn't planted in vain. My approach is just this practical. All of this is conducting myself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully. These are the principles and credos I abide by. This is how I have conducted myself over the years. I never shout slogans, and I don't need your thanks. So long as your food and accommodation are suitable, and things aren't completely out of whack, I feel at ease. When there isn't anyone causing disturbances or making trouble, and it looks quite clean everywhere, the grain and vegetables have been properly planted, the pigs, sheep, and other livestock are properly raised, and all other areas are quite good, with the basic necessities no longer a problem for most of the people doing their duties, then I can stop worrying. My requirements in this regard are not stringent. You see, have I ever shouted slogans when guiding you in any work or in issues involving your basic necessities? I have never shouted slogans. After I get things settled for you, I find suitable people to implement the work. If the people found are not suitable and the work cannot be implemented, they are replaced. It's only when the work is finally implemented and most things have been suitably handled and the basic necessities of the personnel doing their duties have been properly arranged that I can stop my human work, no longer needing to take pains in this regard. Some people still always ask me about trivial matters. One says, "What should we do if the newborn lamb can't get milk?" Another says, "What should we do if the clothes we make always shrink?" You must figure out how to resolve these things yourselves. That's your business, and it has nothing to do with me. Even when fellowshipping the truth, I only say it once. There are audio recordings of the sermons and fellowships. If you do not understand, you can listen to them a few more times and take your time to ponder, seek, and fellowship. If on this basis you're still a bit confused about a few issues and don't know how to handle them, we can fellowship on them when we meet. But when it comes to what people can achieve, it's best for you to handle such things yourselves. God created the heavens and earth and all things for people: the sun, moon, stars, water, air, sunlight, food, as well as the various environments and living things people need, after which He placed people on earth. God maintains the laws of the growth and operation of all things for people, and maintains people's living environments. It's up to people to actually go about living. As for what things to plant in which season, when to harvest them, how to store them after the harvest, what methods to use when making them into food, what to eat more of, what to eat less of, what to eat in which season, how much to eat every day, that's your own business. Now that the truth has been fellowshipped so clearly, and matters regarding life have all been settled properly for you, if you still ask me to help you do this and that, and still look for me to fellowship with you about this and that, then you are so devoid of reason. As for what I've already fellowshipped on, I tell you to handle and resolve these things yourselves. The church has leaders at all levels, as well as the man used by the Holy Spirit to lead you. You should seek and resolve things yourselves. Do not come to me for everything. The reason is that I've already said everything that ought to be said. I've even arranged your basic necessities for you. And when it comes to those trivial matters, they are not what I ought to resolve, but your own business, and you should handle them yourselves. No matter how many words God incarnate speaks or how many things He does, people must know that the most important point regarding the normality and practicality and the humbleness and hiddenness of God incarnate is this: whether God incarnate lives among people or performs His ministry, the most basic credos and principles of His humanity, which are lived out by His flesh, are to conduct Himself in a rule-abiding manner and to do things dutifully. This is reflected in God's incarnate flesh, and naturally, it is also reflected in the God who possesses God's identity and essence, God in His inherent identity. Of course, in God's case, it is not called conducting Himself in a rule-abiding manner, but at the very least, in the way God does things, and in the way He treats people and things, He certainly also strictly abides by these principles. This is both what the humanity of God incarnate has and is, and what the divinity of God in His inherent identity has and is. What His humanity has and is entails conducting Himself in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully, while the essence of God in His inherent identity entails God treating people in a rule-abiding manner and doing things dutifully. We will not talk much more about this. No matter what perspective you take, in terms of all things created by God, God's sovereignty over and guidance of humankind, major matters to minor ones, and the macroscopic to the microscopic, God does everything in a rule-abiding and dutiful manner. When God was not incarnate, He was hidden among all things. Although humankind did not see God's figure or God's true face, God has always been leading all of humankind. He has also always been doing every single thing, managing every single thing, and holding sovereignty over every single thing in the universe in a practical manner. Nothing He does is hollow. Of course, not a single thing done by God's hands remains at the level of theories or slogans. Instead, in every single thing God does, whether you can appreciate it or not, whether you can see it or not. He is doing it in a rule-abiding manner and doing it dutifully. He does the work he intends to do in a down-to-earth manner. He never makes declarations or justifies himself to people, nor does he shout any slogans. Rather, he has always been making utterances and speaking, practically leading and providing for all of humankind. This is also what God has and is. What God incarnate has and is definitely will not be disconnected from or conflict with what God himself has and is. Therefore, after people know what God incarnate has and is, or know the credos and principles of self-conduct God incarnate abides by, they will largely come to know the essence of God in his inherent identity and what he has and is. As a result, people's notions and imaginings about the God in heaven will decrease to a certain extent, and their knowledge, understanding, or views of God will become more practical. Relatively speaking, they will also be able to treat God incarnate more accurately, objectively, and rationally, rather than condemning what his humanity has and is, or disdaining or being dismissive of what his humanity has and is. Instead, for one thing, they will be able to treat it correctly, and for another, they will be even more able, through what his humanity has and is, to see what his divinity has and is, thus being able to know both the God in heaven and the God on earth more accurately. All right, we'll end our fellowship on this topic here for today. Goodbye.